Part 29. Creation of the World, Binding God Simulator at the Beginning. Author, Yefeng Feng. Chapter 281. Northeast Base, listen to the order. Southwest Base, listen to the order, prepare to reinforce the Southeast Base. Wizard began to dispatch reinforcements from the two cities to support the Southeast Base in time. Its voice spread, and ripples floated in the space. The insect tide changes direction, target, Southeast Base. Then, it ordered again, adjusting the marching direction of the insect tide. But at this time, the insect tide was eating happily. Because the other party did not order the insect tide to turn in time, the insect tide has stepped into the border base and completely destroyed and swallowed it. The creatures gnawed each other, and the insect tide assembled army has exceeded 50,000. Most of the insects evolved by swallowing. After receiving the order, they were like zombies, immediately put down the food in their hands, turned around and began to march towards the Southeast Base. Back to Baizi, the battle situation has reached a fever pitch. He looked into the distance, and another group of deformed birds gathered. But perhaps because of fear, they were far away, only guarding the periphery of the Southeast Base, and did not dare to approach and monitor. But no matter what, the other party has obviously noticed his position. There is also a high probability that it has dispatched the coalition forces of the two cities to prepare to support the Southeast Base. Time waits for no one, we have to hurry up. After that, Baizi ordered Hyperzaton. Use the death sickle form to quickly end it. Received your order, Hyperzaton no longer entangled with the winged wolf. It transformed into a double sickle, absorbing the surrounding energy wantonly, and a starlight bloomed on its double sickles. The winged wolf was shocked and found that he could not move a step. He watched the destructive blow in front of him fall, and the power once surpassed the peak of the commander. After being cut, the body of the winged wolf swayed, and finally turned into a pale color and disappeared in mid-air. On the other side, the insects and rats in the city sewers were strangled and exterminated, and the wolf pack fled in all directions, and large numbers were trampled to death by the tree people. The Spider Queen was defeated by the Sword and Shield Doughty, whose golden slash cut the latter in half, and the Spider Clan was defeated and unable to resist. It was almost 5 o'clock, the sun was about to rise, and the Dapen side had also finished the battle. The bodies of the deformed animals were piled up in all directions, as high as a hill. The Southeast Base was completely occupied. You occupied the Southeast Base, and the raid was settled. But you could already feel the movement not far away while staying in the base. You understand that the coalition forces of the two cities will arrive soon, and the insect tide will follow closely behind. You can't delay, otherwise there is a risk of being sandwiched on three sides. You began to order the creatures to clean up the battlefield and dig out all the available crystals to improve their own strength. The next morning, the transmission channel was completely flooded by tens of thousands of insect tides, and the last batch of resource supplies arrived, and then the resource supply was cut off. You counted the number of people, and lost 1,000 meteorite insects, 1,000 tree people, and a small number of casualties in the rest of the creatures, but the overall casualties were not large. But the good thing is that half of the army has advanced to the general level, and the Treeman King and the Universe Insect King have advanced to the high-level general level. The Holy Spirit King Dragon has entered the middle level of the commander, and the other creatures have not changed much yet. Baizi saw the bottom row and couldn't help but feel happy. Half of the creatures have reached the general level. In this way, as long as you keep attacking the city, you can get more energy crystals. This dungeon mission will definitely allow all creatures to evolve. However, the resource supply has been interrupted. Next, unless you devour the opponent's creatures, you can't replenish the energy of the creatures. Baizi thought carefully and felt that he couldn't delay any longer. Now, every minute and every second is life. All troops, march to the Southwest Base, Baizi ordered. After replenishing the energy, you give the order to let the army march to the Southwest Base. But at this time, Aurora came to report that the Sword and Shield clan had conducted a deep exploration in the sewer before. They discovered that the waterway in the sewer connects all the surrounding bases, including the central base. Aurora suggested that you could start from the sewer in the southeast base and reach the central base all the way. Instantly, you understood what Aurora meant. If you follow the waterway, you can even avoid the support troops from the two cities. Unfortunately, there is a flock of birds ambushing outside the city to monitor you. It is definitely impossible for all members to enter the sewer, otherwise they will be noticed by the other party. So, you made a bold decision and ordered all meteor bugs to leave the underground waterway and attack the central base directly. The remaining troops marched to the southwest and surrounded the Sea Emperor, who had been lurking there. They did it right away. Led by Hyperjeton, all 4,000 meteor bugs disappeared. The three tribes' troops rushed out of the southeast base and headed southwest. Because of the experience last time, the distorted birds that were monitoring you remotely stayed outside the base and dared not approach. They saw your army rushing out, but found that their number had decreased. However, they did not go deep into the base, so they did not know what happened inside. At this time, through the distorted bird, seeing Baizi's army step out of the southeast base and prepare to march to the southwest base, Withering felt strange. They had already broken through the southeast base and could have directly entered the central base, so why did they march to the southwest? In addition, the opponent's creatures were missing. Hyperjeton disappeared. Could it be an ambush? After thinking about it, Withering issued a serious order. It first asked the support troops in the southwest to pay attention, and it would be best to block the invaders in the forest. Wait for the insect tide to come, and then catch them all in one fell swoop. Finally, Withering sent a flock of distorted birds to search for Baizi's disappeared team. At noon the next day, relying on the double speed blessing, your army took the support troops of Northeast City for a walk. The 70,000 or 80,000 insect tides were left far behind by you. However, the large army and the support troops of Southwest City were getting closer and closer. At this moment, just as the two armies were about to meet, a huge explosion suddenly occurred in the headquarters of the Southwest base. In the center of the base, the chimney used to store radiation was destroyed, a large amount of radiation leaked, and the explosion caused a fire, forcing out all the remaining creatures inside. The long-lurking Sea King clan kept drilling out from the middle river and launched a massacre on the city. Because the main force of the army was transferred to support, the southwest base did not even have a commander-level combat power. Arriving at 3 o'clock, the main force of Southwest City also met with your three tribes. For a while, the forest was on fire and became a battlefield for the two armies to fight. The Southwest base is an animal city, originally used for animal experiments, and many lions, tigers, and leopards were captured. But after being occupied, these creatures underwent secondary deformation. Among them, the tiger tribe not only grew larger, but also grew wings and hard exoskeletons. Creation of the World, Binding God Simulator at the beginning. Author, Yefeng Feng. Chapter 282. However, the blood of the Sword and Shield clan is extraordinary. When facing them, the leader of the other party was obviously timid. At the same time, the Meteorite clan, who started out in the sewers, overcame many obstacles along the way and encountered many insects and rats in the sewers. While dealing with them, they dug out the crystals in their bodies to use for their own advancement. Soon, the meteorite bugs arrived at the designated location, the central base. According to your instructions, they took advantage of the fact that everyone's attention was focused on the southwest and caught the central base off guard. At this time, the sewer openings inside and outside the central base were all opened, and blood columns rushed into the sky, and then several deformed rats and deformed worm corpses were thrown out. The meteorite bugs drilled out from different sewer openings and attacked the surroundings indiscriminately. Any deformed creatures you see, regardless of species or level, will be touched. Hundreds of two-headed dogs and giant tumor apes living on land were blown away. They quickly organized defense after realizing it, and the war spread to the central base. The raging flames raged, high-rise buildings collapsed, biochemical factories were damaged, and star-colored giant insects were flying around everywhere, crashing into the sky. They moved very fast, knocking out big holes one after another, and even knocking down the chimneys that stored nuclear energy. When they came into contact with the flames, a huge explosion instantly rose. Countless distorted creatures died, and some were even blown to pieces without even a drop of ashes left. The central base, the southwest base, and the southwest forest were in chaos, and the world was burning in the angry fire. Withering looked at the overall situation and found that many places had fallen and distorted creatures were being hunted down. For a moment, his eyes were dazed. It had just received the message from the distorted bird and found that your creatures had left the sewer, but the meteorite bugs attacked the central base. The speed was so fast that it was amazing. From the sky, overlooking the scenes of the three places on the ground, Bai-Ze also felt astonished. The fast marching speed is indeed a difficult loophole to solve. Moreover, the intelligence that Bai-Ze has mastered this time is still sufficient. And the opponent wants to defeat him, but he still has to master his intelligence before he can start to defend. Bai-Ze relies on the advantage of mastering the intelligence first, plus the marching speed. He can completely play with the decay. As soon as it investigates clearly, he has already attacked. No matter what it does, it will be slower than Bai-Ze. Gatenja, Doughty, speed up the attack. Bai-Ze gave orders. The central base is not easy to mess with. The meteorite Zerg alone is not enough to take it down even if it is a surprise attack. Then there is decay, which has a second stage. The power of the monarch, the current hyperjeton cannot resist. It is necessary to gather the power of multiple commanders to fight it. However, it is so easy to get here, and Bai-Ze can't help but feel a little strange. Although Bai-Ze felt that he was not much inferior to the third-level creator, he was only the second level after all. Even he could beat this, and almost easily defeated the opponent. How did those third-level creators with monarch-level creatures and more world resources fail here? Bai-Ze was a little confused. He always felt that this planet was not as simple as it seemed. There was something he didn't know, hidden in the dark. Otherwise, how did ordinary monarch creatures kill 10 third-level creators? You issued an oracle and ordered your creatures to go full throttle and speed up the battle. The Sea King clan had no commanding force, and under the leadership of Gatenja, they were unimpeded and had occupied the entire base. Gatenja's realm broke through because he swallowed a large number of crystals. It absorbed all the particle energy in the southwest base, and its body was wrapped in a turbid air, and finally advanced to the initial level of command. When one person succeeds, everyone else will succeed. Gatenja's followers also advance one after another, and many Sea Kings break through to the level of generals. Their thoughts were interrupted by the voice beside them. Bai-Ze turned around and saw Gatenja, who had completed the advancement. He felt happy and forgot everything that happened just now. Gatenja's advancement to commander means he has one more available combat force. In this way, Bai-Ze has 5 commanders at his disposal. You encouraged Gatenja, and the Sea King's momentum increased greatly. With the power after the breakthrough, they rushed out of the southwest base in one go. The next night, the outcome of the battle in the forest was about to be decided. The reinforcements of the southwest base suffered heavy casualties and the situation was over. Their leader was killed, and the crystal in his body was swallowed by the glutton on the spot. The remaining remnants wanted to escape. Unexpectedly, the Sea Kings had arrived from the rear and blocked the enemy's escape route. The distorted creatures could not fly away and were slaughtered amidst screams. Your creatures dug out their crystals, and Kunpeng and Sword Shield Doughty both evolved. Kunpeng broke through the commander level, and Doughty entered the high-level commander level. Most of the subordinates also broke through the general level, and the tired state just now was swept away, and they were radiant. Wow, almost all of them are generals. There are also commanders, 6 already. Bai-Ze stretched his neck excitedly and leaned forward. Not only that, it was similar to the game. Players who were originally in a low health state would immediately restore their health and mana as long as they leveled up. After a battle, the creatures were cut off from resource supply and were tired and seriously injured. This next collective advancement, the status is directly restored to full. You feel happy again, and count the number of people. The 4 tribes have lost about 2,000 people together. Because the strength has been improved, the loss is greatly reduced compared to the last round. Seizing this great opportunity, you quickly ordered the 4 tribes to march directly into the central base and take down the opponent in one fell swoop. At the same time, after the meteorite insects riot, both sides suffered great losses. The meteorite insects alone faced the entire base, and their number has been reduced to less than 2,000, but the distorted creatures in the base have also been almost wiped out. The result of the biochemical man in the form of Hypergeton's death sickle, half knelt on the ground and panted, and his status entered a trough. The Universe Insect Emperor led his meteorite insects to cut off the head of the last distorted creature. Looking forward, the spacious streets were full of corpses, and the flames ignited by the green blood mixed with the flames did not go out for a long time. The road is unobstructed, the city is in a state of corruption. The end of this road, facing the top of the chimney, the master of the planet is withering. Hypergeton propped up his body and absorbed the crystal in the biochemical body. Instantly, an extreme chaotic energy raged, and the power in it that was originally eager to try finally broke the last shackles. Hypergeton was sublimated, breaking through the peak of the commander level and entering the highest level of commander. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Creation of the World, Binding God Simulator at the beginning. Author, Yefeng Feng. Chapter 283. The Zerg Emperor of the Universe advances, and the Zerg as a whole is sublimated and returns to its peak state. Ding, Hyperzeton breaks through to the peak of the commander. Ding, the Zerg Emperor of the Universe breaks through to the high level of the general. Ding, the meteorite insects collectively enter the general. A series of sounds echoed in Bai-Ze's ears. Late at night on the second day, the moon is hazy, the fog covers the sky, and the armies of the 5 tribes under your command have been assembled. Under your command, the army is as mighty as a long rainbow, rushing straight into the center base. 5,000 troops, all generals, have breakthroughs. With this lineup, Bai-Ze is confident that he can win this round of simulation in one fell swoop. In the center of the center base, a pillar of light rises up to the sky, accompanied by the withering shrouded in black fog. After the withering appears, it absorbs the energy around it crazily, and countless purple particles flow towards it, gathering in the middle to form a purple lotus blooming. Withering evolved successfully, and the withering storm was born. The terrifying monarch power spread rapidly, and the area within 100 miles was destroyed and corroded. At the same time, black monsters holding tridents and with wings on their backs also emerged from the void. Storm guards surrounded Withering, and purple light continued to shoot out from their pupils, burning the earth with traces. The 5 tribes, led by the Universe Insect King and the Treeman King, united to stop the black monsters from advancing. Aurora jumped onto the back of the Holy Spirit King Dragon, and the 6 leaders gathered under the withering storm. The auras that burst out from both sides seemed to overturn the entire central base. Bai-Ze smiled, his face quite leisurely. He. 1 against 6, you have no chance. It's better to hand over the origin of the world, maybe you can still survive. These words came out. Bai-Ze's projection suddenly appeared on one side of the sky. The withering storm raised its swollen head and saw the invader with a fearful look in its eyes. But its twisted lips still trembled, sneering, "Arrogant human creator. Even if you can get here, you can't stop the power of the monarch. I can still achieve my goal by ending you here." Bai-Ze smiled and shook his head, "Monarch, I have killed more than one. Go ahead, take the origin of the world directly." The 6 commanders received the order, and the encirclement and suppression war officially began. Gaetanja and Kunpeng are responsible for assisting the storm guards next to them. The sword and shield Doughty fought in close combat, and the 500-meter-high withering storm ran on it with a sword. The sword pierced into the body, cutting an arc-shaped crack as it ran, and the withering storm roared, and purple thick blood plasma sprayed out. On the other side, arc-shaped slashes and emerald green rays of light came, accompanied by arrows that would explode, and burst into jasper-colored light. Withering storm was severely damaged, and its pupils flashed purple light. It fired with a bang, sweeping across the ground. A large number of black monsters and your creatures came into contact with the light, and turned into ashes in an instant, while the leaders flexibly dodged. Gaetanja entangled with the storm guard, and the latter's tentacles wrapped around Gaetanja, but unfortunately it couldn't squeeze through its hard shell. Gaetanja began to fight back, and the purple petrification ray hit the storm guard head-on, petrifying a large part of its body, shattering it into multiple pieces on the spot, and falling down. Kunpeng was very flexible, and the storm guard could not touch it. Instead, it was entangled by its own tentacles and trapped in place, unable to move. Taking this opportunity, Kunpeng's wings turned into colorful darts, and attacked the storm guard densely, opening several cracks in the latter's body. In the middle of the night, the withering storm was beaten back. On the other side, the out-of-control insect tide finally caught up, with a number of over 100,000. After destroying and devouring the southeast base, it was slowly moving towards the central base. At 3 a.m., the battle entered a white-hot stage. After a round of fighting, the 5 tribes were killed or injured, but their opponents, the summoned black monsters, were still emerging from the void. The creatures knew that only by destroying the withering storm could they stop all this. The only thing they could do was to buy time for the leaders and prevent these monster soldiers from interfering with the battle. On the other side, the 2 storm guards on the withering storm had been destroyed, and it itself was seriously injured. Facing the 6 commanders who were in good condition, the withering storm seemed very weak, like a flame swaying in the wind, about to go out. What did you just say? The power of the monarch. Is this your power of the monarch now? Bai-Ze mocked without any ambiguity. The withering storm lost several heads, but still answered in a low voice. The creator of the human race, don't be too proud. If it were in the past, you would have died 800 times at my hands. Hearing this, Bai-Ze shook his head. Don't want to waste too much time with it, ready to end it all. There is no point in talking more. If I end you, I can get the origin of the world. Time waits for no one, do it. You don't have that much patience, and immediately ordered your creatures to encircle and suppress, ready to kill the withering storm in one fell swoop. But at this moment, a flash of fire suddenly lit up in the distance. To be precise, it should be the sparks caused by the friction of something, which became the only light in the dark night. If you look closely, you will see dense black dots trembling, and rows of scarlet lights flashing continuously. That's an insect tide. A wave of hundreds of thousands of insects broke through the power grid on the edge of the central city, causing sparks from friction. They run forward crazily, and the tentacles used to support the body are like a bulldozer. Everything in their path will be leveled. You understand that you cannot be flanked by the insect tide, so you once again call on the creatures to speed up the attack. Unexpectedly, looking back, Withering Storm suddenly burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. Good luck, a cold voice came out. Bai-Ze's pupils widened and he felt something strange. This voice was different from the one used when Withering Storm spoke just now. Not muddy, but very cheerful. Bai-Ze continued to look at it. Withering Storm stopped laughing wildly, and a ray of red light flashed in his pupils. Creator of humanity, you should not have come here. Obviously, as soon as it starts, it will be swallowed up obediently. Become a part of my strength and you'll be spared a lot of pain. But... Withering Storm paused and said sternly, but you pushed me to this point. Then, let me see the true despair and fear. As soon as he finished speaking, the insect swarm in the distance suddenly stopped moving. Together with the Withering Storm itself, it also trembled slightly, and its floating tentacles drooped instantly. Creation of the World, Binding God Simulator at the Beginning. Author, Yefeng Feng. Chapter 284. After that, the bugs exploded with a bang. Green plasma filled the sky, and crystals flew out of their bodies one after another. You witnessed all this and felt extremely strange. But just like last time, the crystals decomposed into energy and floated towards the Withering Storm. You thought that the Withering Storm wanted to evolve through this, but the next second, it also exploded and died in the painful wail of the Withering Storm. All of its followers turned into energy and were absorbed by the Withering Storm before it exploded. From the swollen head of the Withering, a deep purple crystal containing huge energy slowly flew out. You were stunned and didn't understand why the Withering suddenly committed suicide. Oh, the origin of the world, Bai-Ze suddenly remembered again. Since the Withering committed suicide, the origin of the world should also be recyclable. He tried to summon a wave of systems, but the answer he got was the same as the last simulation. Ding, the origin of the world has not been liberated and cannot be recovered. You feel puzzled, but suddenly, behind the corpse of the Withering Storm, a light and shadow rises into the sky. The light and shadow gradually turn into a human figure, and the only notable feature is a pair of tentacles on its head. You choose to analyze it with the eye of God, but you don't get any feedback. At this moment, the light and shadow stretch out a hand. The corpse of the Withering Storm falls from the sky, and the creatures of Bai-Ze scatter to avoid being hit by this behemoth. And the purple crystal in its body slowly floats into the hands of the light and shadow. Although it deviates from the original plan. But by sacrificing the Withering Storm, we can almost get the required energy, the light and shadow muttered to himself. Then, it raised the crystal in its hand. The purple crystal floated into the air, and the power inside began to decompose, gradually forming a stream of light. The light beam was aimed at the northwest direction and flew over at a speed that was invisible to the naked eye. You saw the light beam disappear, and then waited for a while. When the purple light enters the northwest base, a black beam suddenly shoots up into the sky from that direction. Then, multiple beams of light rise up, and the number increases, more than a dozen, or even dozens of black beams. While you are still watching, the light and shadow in front of you waved and disappeared in midair. You realize that something is wrong, and have a bad feeling. You urgently organize all the remaining creatures and prepare to order them to march to the northwest base. After a big battle, you don't have many creatures left, and the leaders are also a little tired. But when the army is ready to move forward, you suddenly realize that the pressure of the world has disappeared. The creatures are no longer limited to low-altitude flight. They have regained their original powerful abilities and can even touch the border of the world. You are confused and are ready to go for an investigation. The creatures don't ask any more questions and start to act with all their strength. The morning of the third day, as the sun rises, you can see the situation of the northwest base in the morning light. The northwest base is located in the upper left corner of the world, and is directly connected to the birth point of your creatures. But the strange thing is that in the whole 2 rounds of simulation, no matter how much trouble you make, it seems that the northwest base has never sent troops to support you. Bai-Ze looked down and finally understood why. The northwest base is desolate. Apart from the high walls surrounding it, there are no tall buildings inside, let alone deformed creatures. There are only uneven stone platforms and stone steps, and rows of stone spikes standing up, with bent heads, like the structure of a human sternum. This feeling is not like a city at all. If you want to say it, it should be called a tomb. Because the world pressure has been released, all your creatures can fly, and they soon arrived at the northwest base. When they arrived at the center, they found that in addition to the gray-black land, this base also had strips of red. The ground veins under the base are red, spreading like blood vessels, and the red light flickers like a heartbeat. Looking at the whole scene, the most eye-catching thing is the black light, but when you get closer, you will find that the light is emitted by huge stone tablets. The stone tablets are engraved with different names, standing here, giving people a sense of solemnity. The simulation is still going on. Bai-Ze counted them carefully. There are hundreds of stone tablets here. 99 of them have already raised light. Just as he was observing, the light and shadow appeared in front of Bai-Ze again. You should feel honored to witness their revival. Just prepare to be their first food after revival. The light and shadow raised his arm, and then the last stone tablet also raised a beam of light. Bai-Ze's face tightened, and the system sound immediately echoed in his ears. Ding. Unknown energy detected. Ding. Unknown energy detected. Ding. Unknown energy is expanding infinitely, please pay attention to the host. You look forward urgently, and see that the light on the light and shadow begins to dissipate. It revealed a pair of circular horns, with golden pupils attached to the bottom of the horns, and its entire body was composed of blue and white. Around it, waves of evil spirits were floating, and just inhaling them could cause people to become furious. Your creature was affected, and its eyes were slightly red, as if it would go berserk at any time. System, open the eye of God, Bai-Ze shouted again. A golden light appeared in his pupils, but after waiting quietly for 3 seconds, there was still no movement. At this time, the system popped up a subtitle. Ding, this creature does not meet the detection standard of the eye of God. Seeing this, Bai-Ze was slightly stunned. Could it be that this creature has exceeded the detection range of the system? This was Bai-Ze's first thought. The opponent's strength was too strong to be detected by the eye of God. However, Bai-Ze suddenly remembered. When he obtained the eye of God, there was a line of notes that Bai-Ze did not pay much attention to. The eye of God must detect the opponent's weaknesses before it can give accurate information. The creature in front of him has never received any information, which proves that its weaknesses have not been detected. However, how can a solid creature exist with a truly invincible body without any weaknesses? Then there is only one answer. The guy in front of him is not a physical entity, but a phantom or projection. Boom. Just as Bai-Ze figured it out, there was a sound of turbulent world. Looking up, hundreds of huge shadows appeared in front of hundreds of stone tablets. These shadows were absorbing energy and their bodies gradually became solid. However, the light and shadow that appeared first finally faded away all the flashes on its body. The complete appearance presented shocked Bai-Ze. He couldn't help but shout at the first glance. Welcome to Monster Cemetery. Creation of the World, Binding God Simulator at the Beginning. Author, Yefeng Feng. Chapter 285. Opening its arms, the humanoid creature's energy bursts into the rainbow. Bai-Ze would never mistake that appearance. The ultimate life form in the universe, a guy who is rumored to have ruled the universe for tens of thousands of years. Ray Brando. So, what it calls the monster graveyard? It can't be. Bai-Ze came to his senses and looked at the stone tablets in horror. In other words, those are not stone tablets at all, but a tombstone. Tombstones that store the souls of these monsters. The energy in the atmosphere is about to dissipate and be absorbed by the incorporeal creatures, and their physical figures appear in front of you. Bite. Eye of God detection completed. Bite. Testing completed. Byte. A series of sounds rang in Baizi's ears, making him feel a little dazed. But the message that popped up in front of him next made Baizi look even more hesitant. Byte. Organism detected. Creature name, King Red. Introduction, Skeleton Monster. Creature name, King Array. Introduction, Space Monster. Creature name, Galzan. Introduction, Super Ancient Monsters. Byte. The messages continue, more than a dozen, dozens, and even hundreds. It swallowed up Baizi's system panel entirely, accompanied by a red warning pop-up window. Immediately, bursts of roars echoed. Baizi quickly opened the system screen and turned to look ahead. Under the sky-high tombstones, all the monsters were resurrected collectively. They swung their tentacles, showed their sharp horns, and waved their tails, and the sound of anger filled the world. At this moment, all the problems that Baizi couldn't figure out before suddenly became clear to him. Those creators are here, not just because they have insufficient intelligence. If the opponent is not a native creature or an ordinary alien, but this guy, then the average third-level creator is just here to kill someone. After all, only Baizi knows how terrifying Reblondo is. As for Light and Shadow, it's Reblondo who is right. His powerful mental interference made the only surviving creator unconscious and crazy. The most important point is the origin of the world that has been undetectable just now. There is a high probability that it will always be occupied by Ray Brando. The Withering Storm is just a cover, the body it possesses when it lands in this world. Therefore, by eliminating the Withering Storm, we cannot obtain the origin of the world. You have figured everything out and intend to find a chance to make a meal, but when you look at the whole scene, you realize that it is already too late. The monsters were all resurrected after some observation, they all reached the peak of warrior status, and their aura when they were just born added to their strength. Baizi sweated on his forehead and couldn't help but frown. The peak warrior is already considered an elite monster level. Even if there are only a few hundred in number, they are not easily defeated. Do it, they will be the first meal of your resurrection. Reblondo gave the order. You see, all the newly resurrected monsters rush over, and the entire land is shaken by their trampling. Without time to react, you order the creature to counterattack. They jumped up, trying to contain them from the air, but unexpectedly the other party also took off one by one. Although your creatures have evolved and lifted the world's restrictions, they suffered heavy losses from the beginning, and they can only barely hold on when they collide with it. At this time, Aurora advanced, and when she reached the high-level command level, she used her breakthrough to instantly reach full status, and took the remaining tree people to form a huge wooden wall at low altitude. Then Magic suddenly appeared with a wave of his hand, and hundreds of vines sprouted out from under the barren land, forming a cage that surrounded all living things. The surrounding area is blocked, which is beneficial to Hyperjeton. It swings its pincers one-on-one, and the sparks emitted when attacking make all the monsters fall off their feet. At noon on the third day, your creature's casualties reached freezing point, many leaders were seriously injured, and the monsters also fell one after another. You feel hopeful. Although there are heavy casualties, there is still a chance to defeat the opponent. As long as you defeat all these monsters, you can immediately reach Reblondo hiding at the end. But suddenly, just when Baizi was thinking this, Ray Brown spoke more. Okay, the children have been out for so long, and their muscles and bones have almost recovered. Thank you for the free sparring, now it's time to wrap things up. You were awakened by these words and raised your head to see all the monsters you had just maimed or killed getting up. At the same time, a long stick suddenly appeared in Reblondo's hand, flashing blue light, and then it was suddenly lifted above his head. The blue light becomes brighter and blooms until the entire long stick is submerged. With the urging of the long stick, the monsters who got up also behaved strangely. They shook their bodies, and the energy in their bodies was scattered. Finally, it gradually transformed from a solid body into a virtual body, becoming a faint blue wandering soul, slowly rising upwards. The red veins under your creature's feet rolled and suddenly cracked, forming large canyons. There is magma at the bottom of the canyon. If Hypatchton hadn't reacted quickly, they would have fallen into the magma. However, as soon as your creature took off, streams of magma inside shot up into the sky and spilled out. The blue wandering souls gathered upwards, and under the cover of the magma, something huge appeared there. The majestic power spread, and the shocked creatures retreated repeatedly, finding it difficult to stand firm. Bai-Ze opened the eyes of the gods and saw a large red spot just by looking at it. What follows is the system's beep. Bite. Warn. System testing completed. Creature name, Beludora. Biological level, Monarch level elementary. Introduction, the 100-body monster, a true king created by extraordinary means that combines hundreds of monsters into one, possesses the power to destroy heaven and earth. In front of me, a guy like Optimus Prime stood up from behind the magma. Looking up, I could barely see the monster's head. 4,000 meters. Bai-Ze remembered very clearly that this guy was fully 4,000 meters tall. Coupled with the aura constantly gushing out of its body, it was like fighting against a Mount Tai. It's actually that 100-body monster. Is it activated by the battle instrument? The battle instrument that controls monsters. Bai-Ze turned his eyes and saw Reblondo standing under the giant object, holding a silver combat device. Bai-Ze could feel that the guy it summoned was no ordinary monarch. Its power is unmatched by the previous Lich Archmage or the Withering Storm. It is very possible that it is already close to the middle level of the monarch. After the magma completely fell, Beludra's full appearance was revealed. It had a pair of giant horns and wings on its back, giving it a devil-like appearance. The whole body is made up of hundreds of monsters in front of it. Your creature is as small as a pet. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbspeed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Creation of the World, Binding God Simulator at the beginning. Author, Yefeng Feng. Chapter 286. Before you give the order, the other side attacks first. From the sharp corners of Beludora, more than a dozen yellow electric lights shoot out continuously. Your creatures quickly dodge, then land on Beludora to launch a counterattack. The light of Holy Spirit King Dragon, Hyperjeton, and Gatenja, as well as the slashes of Kunpeng and Doughty, and the vines that keep coming out of the ground. Beludora was hit by rounds of attacks, and the creatures of the clan flying low under its feet were also constantly interfering with it. After a brief stalemate, Beludora suddenly moved, and it swung its body, and a large number of creatures of the clan were thrown out. Then, the yellow crystal on Beludora's chest flashed, and hundreds of golden streamers were emitted in an instant, like a falling meteor, gorgeous and dangerous. The light also has tracking properties. All your creatures cannot dodge, and are all hit. The 6 leaders fell from the sky, and the remaining creatures were almost completely destroyed. Big holes were blown out of the northwest base, as if it had been hit by a meteor shower, and the scene was horrible. Seeing this, Bai-Ze looked at the last talent on the system. A guy with this strength can never be defeated by himself. It's time to use it now. System, use the talent, lightning, and thunder. As soon as these words came out, the surrounding space changed instantly. Ding, the position has been locked successfully, and the active talent, lightning, and thunder has been activated. At this time, the sky above Beludora's head was covered by dark clouds, and purple thunder rolled inside, like a dragon ready to attack. Seeing this scene, the creatures that were seriously injured and could still move all stood up. Seeing dozens of lightning lights falling from the dark clouds, piercing into Belidora's body, casting a thunder cage, imprisoning him in it. Beliodora roared, and the strong paralysis made it unable to move for a while, and it was severely injured by the penetrating force. You seized the opportunity and hurriedly ordered the creatures to fight back. The 6 leaders moved with difficulty, and the light and slash were continuously shot, combined with the thunder from the sky, creating unexpected effects. With the penetrating effect, Beliodora's defense was greatly reduced, and the sparks on his body jumped, igniting a group of raging flames, burning it constantly, shaking its body. Unfortunately, witnessing all this, Rebrando was not panicked at all. It watched quietly, and even wanted to laugh. Sure enough, the tragedy happened in the end. After a period of stalemate, Beliodora adapted to the paralysis brought by thunder and lightning. It moved its heels and took a step forward. The hurricane that erupted when it swung its body shook the 6 leaders away at the same time. Then, Beliodora opened its mouth wide, and a stream of hot and boiling energy condensed. With the golden gem on its chest shining, hundreds of electric currents are emitted at the same time, scattered all over the place, like a punishment from heaven. The red laser in its mouth falls straight down, burning everything on the surface. After the ashes, all 5 tribes under your command are dead or injured, and the 6 leaders, including the Universe Insect King and the Treeman King, are dying, having reached their physical limits. At this time, the gem on Belidora's chest flashes again, and another wave of attacks is launched. Witnessing hundreds of electric currents coming, the leaders who are barely breathing want to move to resist, but it is useless. Your creatures are submerged in it and completely die. On the 3rd night, your main force is defeated, and Rebrando invades the mother planet with Belidora. The mother planet is defeated, the creatures die, and the planet is occupied. Your consciousness is affected by Rebrando, becoming stupid and crazy, you are killed by the other side, and the origin of the world is plundered. You are dead. Ding, this simulation is over. A line of subtitles appeared, then disappeared. Baizi's eyelids twitched twice, and he could only sigh helplessly. The monarch creature, such a big guy, is indeed not something he can defeat. Even if he saves his talent until the end, he can only cause trauma to it. Fortunately, all this is a simulation, otherwise his death would be really unfair. Ding, the system gives an evaluation. At this time, several more lines of subtitles appeared in front of Baizi. Baizi stared at the system indifferently, wanting to see what it could say in this round. Evaluation 1, the host made reasonable use of intelligence, reduced casualties to a minimum, and arrived at the destination quickly, which is a reasonable performance. But there are still many details that the host missed, so that the biological marching speed did not reach the fastest. Evaluation 2, the host still lacks intelligence, even if there is a strategy, it is still not enough to take down the opponent. Baizi crossed his arms. This round is almost like this, and the system still says it is slow. Moreover, Baizi believed that he had studied the distorted planet clearly. Even Belidora and Rebrando were tricked out by him. What else is there that he doesn't know? Ding, based on the above data, the host has obtained a total of 20,000 Genesis points this time. Next, it is the Genesis value gained in the simulation. Because the battle situation is better than the last time, the Genesis value has also been doubled. Ding. I choose to keep the talent of poison gas immunity. Before the system spoke, Baizi chose it first. Ding, received the host's order, poison gas immunity has been solidified. This is a necessary talent for conquering the distorted planet, so I can only choose it. Ding, this simulation ends, cooling time is 30 minutes. During the cooling period, Baizi leaned back. He should think carefully about how to defeat this obstacle. The 100-body monster Beludora, the ultimate life form of the universe Rebrando. It seems that Bai-Ze cannot fight against any of these two. Moreover, time is running out. At the same time, the outside world is not as calm as Bai-Ze. On the second night of the competition, the major competition areas are brightly lit and the competition is still going on. In the Yang Province competition area, there are fire phoenixes and flying flames. In the Tianjing competition area, there are holy light guards, who are immortal. In the Yanyuan competition area, there are clouds coming to guard the heavens. After one game after another, the number of teams has been greatly reduced. But people are most concerned about the Imperial Capital competition area. At this moment, the Imperial Capital competition area is holding the last round of the night. Team Tree Branches, against Bai-Zing 1. This name is not unfamiliar to everyone. Although I have never seen the real person, the name of the goddess has been heard by almost all creators who have heard of her. However, it was written on the screen that there was only the name Bai-Zing 1, and no team name. In other words, the goddess did not even have any teammates in this year's competition. She was the only one participating in the competition. 1 against 3, and she could still make her opponents afraid to participate. To be honest, if there was no conspiracy, how terrible would her strength be? The local players in the Imperial Capital were so scared just by hearing about it that they did not even come to participate in the competition. Creation of the World, Binding God Simulator at the beginning. Author, Yefeng Feng. Chapter 287. It's been so long, he probably won't come. You won't give up again, right? If you give up, someone will come to the scene. I also want to see what the goddess who is said to be a god looks like. At the Imperial Capital Center, there was a lot of complaining in the spectator seats. Among them, there are many geniuses from various provinces. Everyone has come to investigate the Imperial Capital's combat power, and some have been sitting here since early in the morning. After watching the match between Emperor Shenzhe, what I am most looking forward to is the last one. Unfortunately, after waiting for a long time, no one was seen. At this time, the referee standing on the floating platform suddenly received a call. He listened to the voice on the phone and nodded unsurprisingly, with a relaxed smile. Then he put down his cell phone and announced to the audience. I just received a notice that all members of the branch team have abstained from this round of competition. So the winner of this round is Imperial Capital Academy Bai-Zing 1. The referee spread his hands, and after saying these words, he slowly retreated behind the scenes. Hearing this, everyone in the audience's seats widened their eyes and couldn't help but feel a little resentful. Just like yesterday, after waiting for a long time for the game, the opponent gave up again and didn't even come to the scene. At least let them see which one is the goddess. Forget it, let's go home, go home. There is a game tomorrow, so I have to go back early to rest today. I'm done with it, let's go. It's really disappointing, and I didn't see the real person. Gradually, everyone in the spectator seats cursed and left. Since no one is here, there is no point in them staying here. Let's go back too. Tang Qingcheng stood up, and Xia Yunya beside her nodded lightly. So, the two of them walked all the way down to the spectator seats, but were stopped when they were down there. Taking a closer look, the girl standing in front of her with long burgundy hair was Yang Deqin's Inlian. What do you want from me? Tang Qingcheng stopped and said calmly. Qingcheng the other party called softly. She stayed in place, unsmiling, and her eyes were very serious. Do you still remember our previous agreement? You broke your promise. Xia Yunya quietly glanced at the two of them and noticed that there was an invisible spark jumping. Tang Qingcheng was stunned for a moment, then lowered his head and smiled. He spoke in a light tone, that's just what you think unilaterally. I have never made any agreement with you. Get out of the way, we're going back. Tang Qingcheng led Xia Yunyu directly past Qin Xinlian. But just after taking a few steps, he was quickly blocked by the other party. Etc. Anything else? Looking at Tang Qingcheng's calm look, Qin Xinlian pursed her lips. I know that Bai Ziyi from your team went to the Genesis building to challenge the dungeon. It was a special copy, a third-level world, and 10 creators had died. What do you want to say? Tang Qingcheng's eyes gradually turned cold. I mean, that copy is not something he can pass. He can't come back. Even if you are lucky enough to come back, you will either be seriously injured or partially disabled, and you will even lose your identity as the creator. Tang Qingcheng frowned with a serious look on his face. So what? So it will affect the second stage of the game. I think you know better than me. You may be fine in the first stage of the game. But in the second stage, it will definitely become a 2-on-3 situation, and we will also encounter attacks from various provinces. By then, Surin province will be eliminated early, and its prestige will probably plummet. With that said, Qin Xinlian slowly moved closer to Tang Qingcheng. Looking at her mechanical eyes, Qin Xinlian had a hint of triumphant joy on her face. Miss Tang, you don't want Sulan province to be eliminated early, right? Qin Xinlian whispered. Immediately she raised her head, with a look of determination on her face. How about this? As long as you bow to me and admit that you are inferior to me. I am stronger than you, absolutely superior to you. In the second stage of the competition, not only can I not do anything to you, I can even help you a little. While talking, Qin Xinlian smiled. Xia Yunyu glanced at Tang Qingcheng, whose face was stiff and motionless. After a few seconds of silence, Tang Qingcheng suddenly smiled. He. Why are you laughing? I laugh at your ignorance, Tang Qingcheng said without hesitation. She raised her head, her pupils shining with confidence. After being scolded like this, the latter felt a surge of nameless anger. Why do you say that to me? Humph, you said that Bai Ziyi will not come back, or that he will be severely disabled when he comes back. Then how about we make a bet? I bet he will come back and come back victorious. When Qin Xinlian saw this, her brows furrowed, and her heart felt as uncomfortable as a huge stone blocking it. That's the look. Such a look of confidence and fearlessness. Every time she saw this expression on the other side, she would feel very disgusted and angry. It was as if the scene of being suppressed that day happened just yesterday. Haha, Qin Xinlian laughed angrily and said sternly, okay, I'll make this bet with you. But if you lose, you must come to Yang University and admit in front of everyone that you are not as good as me. No problem, Tang Qingcheng said frankly. She didn't hesitate at all. Then he took Xia Yunyu and went straight past the opponent. Qin Xinlian was left standing there, her facial expression changing. He was clearly humiliating her, and his teammates were clearly committing suicide. It is likely to affect future games, and even the ranking and honor of the entire Sulan province. Why can she be so calm and confident? Qin Xinlian felt very unhappy, but she was sure that she could win. Because no matter how powerful Bai Ziyi was, he would definitely be half crippled when he came out. At least Qin Xinlian had not seen a creator who challenged the copy without being seriously injured. On the other side, after walking out of the venue, the two called a car. Xia Yunyu was a little confused at this time, and couldn't help asking, Sister Qingcheng, that person just now was from Yang University, did you know him? Tang Qingcheng was a little reluctant to say, but she nodded. Yes, I knew him when I was very young. Because I beat her, she has some resentment towards me. Oh, Xia Yunyu nodded gently. Seeing that the other party didn't seem to want to reveal too much, he simply stopped asking. Sitting in the car, looking out the window, the moonlight was dancing in the evening, and the breeze was blowing, lifting the ends of her hair. Tang Ching-cheng rested her chin, and her face was also a little solemn. This time, she placed her hopes on Bai Ziyi, not only betting on her own reputation, but also on the fate of the entire province. She didn't stop Bai Ziyi because she trusted herself. How could someone who could defeat her be defeated in a mere copy? However, if he really lost this time, I'm afraid that not only Bai Ziyi, but the entire Sulan province will become a laughing stock. I bet everything. You can't lose. Creation of the World, Binding God Simulator at the beginning. Author, Yefeng Feng. Chapter 288. On the third day of the competition, the numbers of major teams continued to decrease sharply. In the Imperial Capital Division, the goddess still did not appear. On the morning of the fourth day of the competition, Tang Ching-cheng and Xia Yunyu had adjusted themselves and were preparing to go to the competition site. At the same time, for nearly a day and a half, Bai Ziyi in the copy world tried another simulation. This time, Bai Ziyi followed the last round of system recommendations and explored the aberration world. Unexpectedly, it was discovered that there were several sewers connected to the bottom of the border base. In other words, except for the northwest base that doesn't count the city. The underground waterways of the entire distorted planet are connected, allowing creatures to shuttle freely. From the border base, it is not a problem to directly enter the central base. And because the creatures in the last round have basically been promoted, there is no need for crystals in this round. So Bai Ziyi took advantage of this and let the creatures pass through the sewers of the border base and directly attack the central base. It is no longer about killing creatures, but about winning. But in the end, even if a large number of creatures were stored facing the 100-body monster Beludra, they could only end up dying together. That guy is too strong and cannot be defeated head-on by me now. But based on the above data, the host gained a total of 20,000 creation points this time. In this world, Bai Ziyi received the creation value reward of the simulation. The last round of simulations used up 10,000 yuan, and after adding this round, there are still 30,000 yuan left. But the system gives an evaluation. Evaluation 1, the host has perfect grasp of all information, has minimized casualties, reached the fastest speed, and almost exceeded the limit of current capabilities. Evaluation 2, the host uses a perfect strategy, but the biological ability is insufficient and does not have the strength to completely defeat the opponent. It is recommended that the host changes his thinking and uses another method to solve the current dilemma. Looking at the suggestions given by the system, Bai Ziyi sighed softly. It means that I have done everything I can. In the end, we lost because of our overall strength. But it is almost impossible to continue to improve. Otherwise, it is very likely that we will not be able to catch up with the second stage of the competition. Wait a minute, system, what do you mean by changing your thinking? Bai Ziyi suddenly noticed something. After a few seconds, the system gives an answer. But if you can't fight, then don't fight. Overtake. I hate the Riddler the most in my life, Bai Ziyi complained. But then he thought about it, and he seemed to see the Buddha's light shining all over him, and he suddenly became enlightened. If you can't beat it, don't fight. You mean, don't let me fight Beliudora. Before it appears, destroy the tombstone that stores the monster's soul in advance. But yes. Once the monster tombstone is destroyed, the monster cannot be resurrected. The system gives a positive answer. This idea seems to work. As long as all monster tombstones can be destroyed, they cannot be resurrected even if there is energy. In the end, it was naturally impossible to merge into Beludra. But this is only theoretically possible. How do I get to the northwest base? You know, there are no high-rise buildings and no sewers. I want to sneak into the northwest base and destroy the monster tombstone without being discovered by Reblondo. This kind of thing is almost impossible to do. But If you change your thinking, the host is fully qualified to do it. Oh, Baizi lowered his head and thought for a while. After 2 seconds of silence, he understood what to do. Portal. That's right. The condition he has mastered is the S-level prop card portal. Use the teleportation gate to set the teleportation location at the northwest base. Then it will be teleported, and there won't even be the slightest movement. If the reborn creatures attack in the same way as in the previous round, without Beludra, they will be able to take down the aberrant planet in one fell swoop. But Baizi rummaged through his system backpack and called up the S-level portal. This card only has 2 uses left, and I still have to use it to go to the Lich planet. Baizi was silent for 2 seconds. Finally gritted his teeth and decided to use this card. No matter what, we've fought this far, it's impossible to give up. The decision is yours, success or failure depends on this. Bite. Whether the host chooses to simulate. No need. Baizi denied. Combined with the experience of the previous 3 simulations, he was already confident of winning the distortion world. Moreover, the outside competition has already reached its 4th day. Baizi must go out early, so he uses this round to determine the outcome. System, I want to redeem poison gas immunity. Poison gas immunity, D-level prop card. Creation points required, 1000 points. Set the price according to the positive and negative proportional effects. This price is just right. System, exchange for poison gas immunity. Bite. The creation value is deducted and the poison gas immunity redemption is successful. Baizi looked at the extra card in the system backpack and took it out casually. His projection came to the world, and the oracle immediately fell. The sound of heaven echoed, and all living beings were impressed. The 5 major ethnic groups gathered below, waiting for Baizi's orders. Use the prop card to become immune to poisonous gas. Baizi threw the card, which turned into powder in the air, and then floated towards the creatures underneath. Bite. D-level prop card, poison gas immunity is used successfully. At this time, Baizi spoke. The first 3 battles have given you all breakthroughs. Now, it's time for the final battle. The creatures all raised their heads, and their auras spread with the air. It was the aura from the general, mixed with the power of leadership. All warriors, Baizi's men have become true all warriors. Tens of thousands of extraordinary creatures, all of them have broken through to the warrior level. This battle will be the same as the fight against the Lich. You will not be able to resurrect and face death. As soon as these words came out, there was a chorus of shouts from below. It is our duty to sacrifice our lives for our Lord. Father God will surely ascend to the throne of God. I am willing to become the skeleton at Father God's feet and help Father God ascend to the top. Long live God the Father. For the Most High God, I offer my soul. Bite. The host's faith value add 10. Looking at the cheers below, Baizi began to formulate a strategy for this round. First things first, destroy the monster graveyard and smash those monster tombstones. This task cannot require too many people, otherwise it will cause too much noise. Therefore, Baizi chose the Sword and Shield clan and used them to use the portal directly to the northwest base. Of the 4 remaining tribes, Baizi separated the Dapen and Tree People tribes. Order them to be used as bait and march toward the southwest. In this way, when all the eyes of the world are focused on the 2 races, Baizi can order the remaining 2 tribes to directly attack the border base. Use the sewers in the border base to enter the central base. As for why, Shuren and Kunpeng must be used as bait. That's because Hyperjeton needs to deal with the boss, Withering Storm, and Ray Brando. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Creation of the World, Binding God Simulator at the beginning. Author, Yefeng Feng. Chapter 289. On the other side, Withering in the central base overlooked the ground. Through the crows scouting above the planet, it vaguely sensed that a passage had opened. It had seen 11 such passages before, and this was the 12th. Another delicious fat sheep is delivered to the door. The ignorant creators always want to challenge the authority of the universe. The shadow behind Withering flickered, and then the shadow waved his hand. The crows listen to the order and are ready to monitor the movement of the passage at any time. Near the passage, the border base began to set up defenses. The insect tide is ready to gather, and it is bound to swallow it up in one fell swoop after the other party lands. From the central base, deep oracles fell into various realms. Hearing this voice, the distorted planet became boiling, and many distorted creatures that fell into sleep revived. They moved their tentacles, and roared wantonly. The last bit of nourishment. We are only one step away from our resurrection plan. The sky was filled with thunder and lightning, and dark clouds covered the sky. The voices under the fog continued to spread. At this time, a faint light suddenly flashed at the entrance of the connecting passage, and huge figures emerged from it. The Treeman army took the lead, shaking the earth. Following closely were the Dapen clan, and the 3 commanders all arrived. After connecting the passage, a stable resource chain was also connected to transport resources for the 2 clans. While being monitored by the other party, Baizi's 4,000 troops followed the original plan. They began to march towards the nearby border base, and they ran at a very fast speed. On the way, the army accurately avoided many traps. The quicksand area, the insect well, etc. did not delay their steps. At this time, the dense tide of insects behind them began to gather, with a number of up to 10,000. The monitoring crows have always been hidden above the fog, and other creators cannot see them, but Baizi, who has the eyes of God, knows. However, he did not choose to clean up this time. He wanted to use this to mislead the other party to chase him. At the gate of the border base, just when the army was about to arrive, it suddenly changed direction and fled towards the southwest forest. Through the eyes of the corrupt crow, the Withering witnessed everything. It couldn't help but feel funny, because this time the opponent was just a second-level creator. A mere second-level creator, how arrogant and arrogant. Use your life as a reward, let me teach you a good lesson. Withering's pupils widened, and a whisper came out in an instant. The insect tide began to turn, and the deformed creatures that were originally defended in the border base were also organized in an orderly manner. They rushed out of the border base and followed closely behind the Tree People and the Sea Emperor. Even the creatures in the southwest base received orders to prepare to go out of the city to meet the attack and to be sandwiched with the rear army. At the same time, Baizi looked at the scene in the distance and nodded with satisfaction. He, very good, that's it. Come and chase them, the more the better. Then, Baizi continued to turn his view and looked at the connecting channel. Except for the giant birds that had already come out of the channel and were transporting resources in batches, the entire channel had been flooded. More than 20,000 insect swarms were raging, entrenched in this continent, and the number was still accumulating. Wait a little longer. Baizi clenched his fists and said, wait a little longer and you can act. As long as the insect swarm completely crosses the connecting channel. Then, the southeast corner will be completely liberated. At that time, all eyes will be on the 2 tribes. The birds left behind are used to monitor the connecting channel. With the power of hyperjeton, they can be easily dealt with before they transmit intelligence. Of course, Baizi did not give up on the Tree People and the Sea Emperors. It is only a matter of time before they become bait and are encircled and suppressed. Once the Withering body is in danger, these deformed creatures, including the insect swarm, will be recovered by it and turned into energy. At that time, the encirclement will be broken without attack. It's about time. Hyperjeton, lead the army into the connecting channel, and then scout above first. If there are surveillance birds, clean them up as quickly as possible. The army that had been eager to try roared below. Understood, my lord. After saying that, Hyperjeton jumped up and spread his wings behind him. Led by it, the army of 6,000 people passed through the connecting channel one after another. At the other end of the channel, dozens of deformed birds in charge of the hand fluttered in the air. Just then, they saw a ray of light flashing across the connecting channel. Long experience told them that there was a new enemy coming and they needed to report it immediately. The Planet Master ordered them to guard here to guard this matter. But before they could react, a fireball suddenly rushed in front of them. With a loud bang, all the deformed birds in the sky were burned to ashes and fell heavily to the ground. It was Hyperjeton who did it. It used flash to attack at the fastest speed. Then, a mighty army came out from the other end of the connecting passage. Looking at the desolate scene around him, Bai-Ze was also terrified. This was all destroyed by the insect tide, with trees broken and rocks shattered. The ground was full of potholes and green bloodstains, with a strong stench. Okay, hurry up and go to the border base, Bai-Ze ordered. So, everyone started to move. At the same time, Withering also had a premonition of what happened here. Directly below Withering, the cyborg, whose body had been transformed and deformed, came with heavy steps. My lord, the bird clan monitoring the connecting passage in the southeast corner has lost contact, biochemical human Hui reported. Obviously, Wither is also aware of it. It seems that the other party still has a backup plan. I just didn't expect it to be so fast. He was killed before even the information was sent back. After pondering for a moment, Withered felt a little trouble. Simply, he mobilized some creatures from the southeast and northeast bases to form a temporary army. And dispatched a flock of corrupt crows to start a carpet search. Once found, the provisional army was ordered to encircle and suppress them. Bai-Ze also knew it very well. The other party must be frantically looking for his position. So the movements must be fast, extremely fast. The meteorite army was at full power. They had replenished their energy on their home planet without any reservations. The Poseidon clan followed behind. Although they were a little behind, they could barely keep up. After a while, the gate of the border base was exposed to the eyes of the two armies. Because the main force of the border base was deployed to besiege the Shuran Poseidon, the defense in the base was very weak. Without waiting for those slaves, the warrior-level aberrant creatures reacted. Rows of meteorites have swooped down from the sky. At full strength, they quickly blasted the border base regardless of casualties or consequences. The aberrant creatures inside were beaten into panic and lost their armor. The Poseidon clan who arrived were responsible for harvesting and sealing off the outer circle of the border base to prevent them from escaping. Creation of the World, Binding God Simulator at the beginning. Author, Yefeng Feng. Chapter 290. A purple ray of light shot out, and everything it passed through was petrified. Whether it was a tall building or a fleeing deformed creature. Before death, the deformed creature let out a final painful wail. Unfortunately, they did not have the opportunity to tell the situation here to Withering. On the other hand, Withering felt that the border base had also lost contact. Hurry up, enter the sewer and go directly to the central base, Bai-Ze gave an order. He had to hurry up, otherwise the army on the forest side might not be able to hold on. So, after receiving Bai-Ze's order, everything was ready. The army filed in and poured into the sewer. In fact, the Sea King clan was chosen to follow the meteorite worm instead of the Dapen clan. The main reason was that it was difficult for Dapen to go down the sewer. The soft-bodied Sea Kings were different. The water could be said to be their main battlefield. On the other side, the Treeman and Dapen clan began to maneuver in the southwest forest and fight guerrilla warfare with the enemy's army. While ensuring that there is no excessive damage, it can also restrain the enemy's actions. At this moment, vines rose up inside the forest, and scorching rays of light continued to shoot out from the air. The distorted creatures that came from a distance died one after another, and they kept trying to break through the defense of the wooden wall. The tree people were in the front, and with their tall bodies, ordinary distorted creatures could not get in at all. Even if they were sandwiched on both sides, they could hold on for a while. However, the insect tide had entered the forest not far away. During the march, the number of insect tides exceeded 50,000. If they were surrounded by them, even the tree people would find it difficult to resist. There can't be a crack, the tree people in the back row will go up. The feather arrows can't stop, don't let them attack. Standing on the shoulder of the tree king, Aurora urged the vines to defend while commanding the entire army. At the top, Kunpeng flapped his wings twice, and rows of storms were shot out, cutting off a large area of distorted creatures. But even so, Aurora was still worried. The insect tide will soon arrive here, and there are more and more deformed creatures in front and behind. If they continue like this, they will be swallowed up sooner or later. They will definitely not be able to escape, because tree people do not have the ability to fly, and they cannot even fly at low altitude. Boom! Just when Aurora was worried, a wisp of smoke was burning in the distance. Looking closely, it was the direction of the central base. There was an explosion there, and the flames were swaying slightly. Aurora's pupils glowed, and using special pupil techniques to detect, she could see thousands of huge figures. There is no doubt that the main force must have attacked. Then, Aurora's body was surrounded by green light, and the speed of the wood vines drilling out was getting faster and faster. The main force has already attacked the central base. Hold on, just wait a little longer, and the danger on our side will be solved. Wang Na immediately told the creatures. Before setting off, Bai Zi had told her. As long as the army attacks the central base, it will not take long for all the creatures surrounding them to disappear. Therefore, the tree people and the rock tribes did not need to hold back at all, and they tried their best to support each other's footsteps immediately. On the other side, the meteorite insects that came out of the small waterway and were in good condition launched an attack. The rain of insects fell from the sky, and the meteor-like attack smashed a large number of buildings. The creatures in the base were still confused, and they didn't know where Bai Zi's creatures came from, and they died in a series of explosions. Little did they know that the sewer outlet was already a river of blood. Countless deformed rats and deformed insect corpses were scattered all over the ground, and the scene was extremely disgusting. The periphery of the central base was invaded, and the withering inside felt the movement. He also showed shock, and it was hard to believe how Bai Zi's actions could be so fast. Just now, it felt that the border base had lost contact, and it was ready to dispatch temporary troops. Who knew that the central base was attacked just after the temporary army left? At this time, the insect tide and the troops of the border and southwest bases were encircling another wave of creatures in the forest. The temporary troops of the southeast and northeast bases were sent to the border bases. The central base had no reinforcements, and it was completely trapped in a city. My lord, leave it to me. At this time, the biochemical man below volunteered. After he finished speaking, he jumped twice and rushed over with a leap. Withering was still worried, and his body floated up and followed him. The creatures under Bai Zi took advantage of the surprise attack to wreak havoc. Without any worries, Hyperjeton let go. Dozens of large fireballs condensed on its side, and then split after being fired. Gradually turned into hundreds of them, and continuously ejected in the central base. Many distorted creatures were burned, and their bodies turned into a pool of green water with a foul smell. In just a moment, the creatures in the central base were reduced by half. After reacting, several commander-level distorted creatures organized a counterattack. Tumor giant apes, two-headed dogs, etc. rushed like evil spirits and fought with the meteor bugs. The Sea King joined the battlefield, and Gatenja fired a ray, turning the area into stone. Bai Zi watched the army move forward steadily, with a slight smile on his face. Suddenly, there was a vibration of an engine in the air. The cyborg fell from the sky, swinging its resolute arms, with a fierce look on his face. "Humph, the little boss of the central base, I finally waited for you," Bai Zi chuckled. Looking at Hyperzaton, the latter understood and instantly switched to the death sickle form. It did not give the cyborg a chance to react, and stepped into the sky in a flash. The two sickles crossed, and a starlight bloomed inside, and all the particles around were flying towards Hyperzaton. The cyborg retracted his arm and transformed into a circular muzzle. It fired a shot at the sky, and the green missile cut through the sky. However, the starlight slash from the two sickles fell, with a wide range, and the missile was cut in half the moment it touched the missile. The poisonous gas inside scattered and was instantly swallowed by the ripples raised by the knife wave. The cyborg watched everything, and there was no way to escape. In an instant, it and all the surrounding creatures turned into ashes. Even the leading commanders were not spared. Under Hyperzaton's slash, they became a wisp of dust floating in the air. The light faded, and a canyon cracked in the central base, which was filled with the corpses of deformed creatures. The meteor bugs had retreated in advance, so none of them were affected by the attack. Boom! After the battle, the fog in the sky suddenly dissipated. Instead, thick dark clouds surrounded them. "Here you are. I've been waiting for you for a long time, and finally you're here." Bai Zi raised his head. Under the dark clouds, the three-headed terrifying creature had red eyes. Looking down at everything on the surface, the body of the withered creature trembled violently. The surrounding radiation, viruses, and particles were all converging towards it. At this moment, it realized that the guy in front of it was definitely not an ordinary second-level creator. So it didn't try and chose to evolve directly.